What actually happens to us when we die? Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. It's literally the ultimate mystery, right? For centuries, this whole topic has been completely dominated by philosophy, mythology, and religion. But recently, modern medical science has really started to peer across that final threshold. Today, we're going to look at some incredible real-life cases, ancient texts, and cutting-edge biology to map out the exact sequence of human death.
Okay, let's dive right into this. It's the age-old question. Does our soul physically pack up and leave the body to journey somewhere else? Or is what we experience at the very end purely just a trick of biology? Are we truly gone the literal second our heart stops beating? Well, to even begin wrapping our heads around this, we need to look at a real-life story that absolutely baffled the medical professionals who lived through it.
Section 1. The Ambulance Miracle. To really ground this whole abstract concept of death, let's look at a real-world medical event that, honestly, simply should not have happened. So the story starts with a young boy who fell incredibly ill after a severe medication overdose. Things went downhill so fast that an ambulance was called to rush him to the hospital. But on the way there, the unthinkable happens. His heart completely stops beating. The doctors in the back check his vitals, and they officially declare him dead. But then, exactly 2 minutes later, an absolute literal miracle occurs. Out of nowhere, his heart just starts pumping again. He revives. Now, coming back to life after exactly 2 minutes is shocking enough, but what he did next left every single doctor in that ambulance totally speechless.
This kid didn't just wake up, he woke up with data. He immediately started repeating the exact conversations those doctors were having with each other during the 2 minutes he was clinically dead. They thought he was joking at first, but he repeated their words verbatim. Not only that, he somehow accurately detailed every single left and right turn the ambulance took while he had zero heartbeat, and he knew the exact time they pulled into the hospital. I mean, how is it physically possible for a clinically dead boy with no pulse to hear conversations and track a vehicle's route? It's mind-blowing.
Which brings us to Section 2, the 5 stages of death. See, this boy's story isn't just an isolated incident. It's part of a well-documented phenomenon known as a near-death experience, or NDE, and it sparked immense scientific curiosity, particularly for a researcher named Charles Bruce, who really dedicated himself to studying exactly what patients experience when they cross over and come back.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the incredible consistency in the data. Charles Bruce interviewed a ton of patients who survived NDEs, and he discovered they almost all reported going through these exact 5 stages. First, they feel this overwhelming sense of peace as they perceive their soul separating from their body. Second, they get a really distinct sensation of floating or flying in the air above themselves. Third, they feel they are communicating with people who have already passed away. Fourth, they're inexplicably pulled toward a massive, overwhelming bright light. And finally, stage 5, a super rapid flashback of their entire life.
Just to zoom in on that 3rd stage for a second, Bruce found that an astonishing 32% of these patients specifically felt they were having direct conversations with deceased relatives. We're talking vivid, deeply emotional interactions with loved ones who were literally no longer on Earth.
And regarding that final stage, the life flashback, patients reported that this intense, comprehensive review of their whole life, weighing every good and bad deed they'd ever done, happened in a mere 30 seconds. Imagine that, an entire lifetime of memories compressed into half a minute of profound realization.
Moving on to Section 3, the Garuda Purana. So we have all this deeply documented modern scientific data about what people feel as they die. But here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. These exact experiences aren't really a new discovery. They deeply mirror ancient wisdom, specifically an ancient Hindu text known as the Garuda Purana.
Now, the Garuda Purana was written centuries ago, long before modern medicine was even a thought, yet it outlines 3 incredibly specific core claims about the dying process. First, it states that death is not instantaneous. It is a slow, gradual process. Second, it claims that a dying person can still hear the voices of the living around them. And third, it asserts that the soul eventually separates from the physical body. Keep these 3 ancient claims in mind, because what modern biology has to say about them is going to blow your mind.
Let's move to Section 4, the science of dying, and see how this builds. We've heard the ancient text and the patient anecdotes, but what exactly is happening to the human machine, our physical body, when we die?
Well, science breaks the physical process of dying into a very clear timeline. Step 1, the heart stops pumping. The very moment that happens, Step 2 kicks in. The blood stops flowing,
causing a rapid drop in oxygen all throughout the body. Because of this lack of oxygen, step 3 happens. Your organ systems begin to sequentially fail, one by one. Your muscles entirely lose their tension and control. But step 4 is absolutely crucial. All the residual oxygen left in your blood gets essentially hijacked and sent straight up to the brain.
Which leads us to this incredibly shocking biological fact. Even after your heart has completely stopped and you are clinically considered dead, your brain does not die immediately. The human brain can actually survive, process information, and remain active for another 1 to 2 minutes on just that residual oxygen left in your bloodstream. Your body is dead, but your mind is very much still alive.
And that perfectly sets up Section 5, Brain Illusions or Reality. This brings us to a massive crossroads in our explainer today. We've got the biological facts of brain survival, and we have the vivid stories of flying, seeing dead relatives, and moving toward the light. So are these experiences the reality of a soul leaving the body, or just the final illusions of a dying brain?
According to modern scientists analyzing Charles Bruce's 5 stages, the answer basically lies in hallucinations. When the brain is operating on severely limited oxygen, it simply cannot function normally. Instead, the specific parts of the brain responsible for generating dreams kick into high gear. Science argues that the soul leaving the body and the sensation of flying are literally just the brain hallucinating under extreme stress. And that heavenly bright light drawing patients in? Scientists point out that it's highly likely just the massive, blinding lamp hanging directly above them in the operation theater, filtered through a dreaming, oxygen-deprived mind. Makes sense, right?
And this brilliantly illustrates the real climax of our exploration today. We are going to put the ancient texts of the Garuda Purana directly head-to-head with modern biological science to see how they actually stack up against each other. Let's look at those 3 ancient claims again.
The first claim from the Garuda Purana was that death is a slow process, not an instant switch. And modern science completely agrees. It is a sequential failure. The heart stops, then the organs fail, then the muscles give out, and finally the brain shuts down. Boom! The ancients were exactly right.
The second ancient claim was that the dying can hear the living. Once again, a perfect scientific match. Remember the boy in the ambulance? He could hear the doctors and track the turns because, even with no heartbeat, his brain was still utilizing that residual oxygen for 1 to 2 minutes. The auditory processing centers of his brain were still totally functioning. The ancient text nailed this biological reality perfectly.
But then, we arrive at the third claim. The soul leaves the body. Here we have a mismatch. As we discussed, current modern science attributes the sensation of a soul leaving the body entirely to oxygen-deprived brain hallucinations. Right now, there is zero empirical, scientific proof that a soul exists or separates from the physical form. Science says it's a trick of the mind. The ancient texts say it's a spiritual reality.
Which leaves us with this final, really provocative thought to wrap up our explainer today. The ancient text made 3 bold claims centuries before modern medicine existed. Science has now emphatically proven 2 of those claims to be 100% biologically factual. So the question remains, is the third claim just a myth, or is it possible that our current science simply isn't advanced enough yet? Perhaps decades from now, future medical technology will finally prove what the ancients have been saying all along about the soul. Definitely something to chew on as you go about your day. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible dive into the mysteries of life and death. I really hope it gave you something fascinating to think about.